Hello and welcome to Sensual and Erotic Education. My name is Frank. I am a sexologist and psychotherapist. Now, I hope you enjoyed the other 3 videos. If you haven't seen them, I highly recommend you go see them, but it's not necessary that you see them, but it might help you understand what we're going to talk about today. And what we're going to talk about today is the difference between sexual performance and sexual presence. Now, most people, what they try to do when they're having sex is to perform. They want the other person to think that they're good sexual partners, that they can give them sexual pleasure, that they can give them multiple orgasms in the case of women. Men want to have a strong, rigid erection. Women want to give good fellatio or have their man enjoy the sex that they're having, or whatever way you think makes sex good. Now, this might seem very altruistic at first, right? You want to give the other person pleasure, and a lot of people say to me, well, the way I get sexual pleasure is by seeing the other person having sexual pleasure. And most people that say that, there's an underlying truth to that, and it's more of an ego boost than the actual aspect of wanting to give pleasure to the other person. Because what's really enjoyable is knowing that we're the ones giving the pleasure. Would you be as sexually excited if the other person was, for instance, masturbating and you were seeing them having sexual pleasure? Or do you get more pleasure out of you giving it to the other person? And I'm not saying this is necessarily wrong, but what it does is that most people concentrate on the aspect of giving sexual pleasure and having that sort of ego boost, which kind of feels good. But at the same time, if both partners are doing that, a lot of the time people actually forget about their own pleasure. Because when I ask the question, what gives you sexual pleasure? Oh, it's seeing the other person having sexual pleasure. Okay, so if both people are actually doing that, who's actually enjoying it? Because everybody's sort of giving themselves an ego boost in a sense, and what they want to do is they want to be good at something. They don't want to actually enjoy what's going on in the present moment for themselves, because that sort of sounds egotistical, right? Well, actually, that can actually make sex better. Now, why is that? Well, most people that try to perform, and they're not necessarily having the results that they want to have, or they don't reach the objective they want, for instance, having an orgasm, or having multiple orgasms, or having an ejaculation, or, getting the satisfaction. So what they're actually doing is once they start stimulating their partner, and they're not getting the reaction, well, sometimes people get mad, they can pout, the other person can get angry, you don't enjoy sex as much, you're not really present in the moment, and if you don't have, for instance, the objective you wanted to reach, which most people, when we talk about sexual satisfaction, is they had an orgasm. But sex can last, 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, depending on people, and even longer and shorter for others. But if you didn't reach your orgasm and you said, well, I wasn't satisfied, okay, well, the orgasm lasts about, 8 seconds? What about all the other rest? The preliminaries, or just touching, feeling the other person, smelling, tasting, hearing the other person have pleasure. Did you actually take the time to be in the moment? And that's what sexual presence is, rather than sexual performance. Now, sexual presence is really being in your own body and really doing things that you enjoy. And that can give sexual pleasure to the other person. But were you actually taking the time when you were touching the other person, when you were penetrating them with your fingers, or had their penis in your mouth, or were licking their genitals, or stimulating their breast, or touching their muscles, or their back, their skin, their beard, their face, their hair? Were you actually in the moment and really enjoying what you were receiving in that time? And what actually happens most of the time is that when people actually start listening to their own bodies, being connected to themselves, it allows them to be more connected to the other person. When you're giving pleasure to someone, and you're actually enjoying it, not just because the other person's enjoying it and it's giving you that ego boost I was talking to you about earlier, but that you're actually there in the moment, in your hand, taking notice of what you're feeling, of the feelings, the emotions that you're getting from it, the heat that you can actually provide, the warmth that you can find, the humidity in the vagina, or just holding a penis in your hand, is that something that's really enjoyable for you when you're doing it? And when you actually start doing that, you realize that you can create this connection with this other person, and it's actually even more enjoyable than if you're just looking for that special spot that's going to make them come or give them that sexual pleasure. Rather than just trying to do something for the other person, why don't you start doing it for yourself and really take pleasure out of it and see the results of what actually happens? Now I'm going to leave you on these reflections. Are you capable of really enjoying yourself during sex? Or do you only take joy out of the other person's sexual arousal and sexual pleasure? What happens when you see maybe it's not getting the results that you would expect? Not just maybe having the orgasm, but you don't feel that they're as excited or as aroused as you'd like them to be. Is it because maybe you're not taking pleasure out of it? You may see it more as a chore. Maybe you have a hand that hurts, or locked jaw for oral sex. Or maybe you're tired of penetrating a certain way, but you really want to perform and you really want to make sure that this person has their orgasm, so you continue even though you're uncomfortable. It's surprising how people will remain in an uncomfortable position, not just in your body posture, but just being in an uncomfortable position during sex, in their body, what they're doing, just so that they don't get the other person angry or upset, or maybe that they don't feel that ego boost I keep talking about. So really take the time to notice, when you're having sex with another person, are you really connected? Are you really enjoying what's happening? Are you just doing it just so that, you see that you're a good partner? Or are you actually really enjoying the feelings, the emotions, the sensations that you can get in sex? And before you even answer the question, try having sex and see if it actually happens. Because most of you are going to probably want to say, yeah, I'm connected. But are you really? Most people aren't. So I'll leave you on that, reflect on that, and we'll come back next time to talk more about it. Enjoy your week.